Good morning, Ocoee region. Yes, Tony Miles here on this rainy, stormy Thursday morning. But you know what? It is all good. I was coming here and I was just thinking, I said, oh my God, God is just cleansing the earth. He's just cleansing the earth. And let it rain, let it rain, let it rain. And then I also had this wonderful thought of abundance. It is raining abundance. And so take that word with you. And so today I'm just going to declare it is well, and in your life and in mine, it is raining abundance. It is raining abundance. I am so excited today. One of the reasons I'm here through this stormy Thursday is because my guest, Shady Hernandez ViVe, yes, you know who she is. She's all over this community. And she was on the show last week with Man Alive, or Man Up, Man Up. I always get them two things, with Adam. And we had been talking about her coming back on to talk about what she does and what her organization does and the impact to this community, especially our immigrants and refugees. And so I just didn't think she had enough time last week to share everything. So, Ocoee region, help me to welcome my friend and your friend, and soon-to-be friend, Shady Hernandez. Good morning, Shady.
Good morning, Tony. Thank you for inviting me over to talk about ViVe. I appreciate that.
Well, I just didn't think there were such great discussions last week when you were on the show talking about immigration and things like that. And so by the time they got to you and you put several things out there in the air that was great, but you didn't really have time to elaborate on. So I definitely wanted to bring you back to talk about some of those things. But before we go there, I love doing this. I would love for you to give your testimony and then introduce ViVe and what's the mission of ViVe. And then through that, we'll circle back around to some of the questions from last week. So go ahead.
Well, it's interesting that you use the word testimony because I think that wherever we go, whatever organization is out there, whatever nonprofit opens up, there is a testimony behind it.
Yes.
And I was not born Shady Hernandez. I am Shady Rodriguez. That's
Yes.
my last name, my maiden last name from my father, who was a missionary. And I was born into a missionary home. That was my first home,
Yes.
into a missionary little home. And we worked around the world.
Wow.
Back then, the church was itinerant, so we moved from one country to another every 4 years.
Wow.
So I learned to live as a migrant individual. We worked all over South America, Central America, in Europe, northern part of Africa, the Caribbean. So I am well aware of with the different the conditions of humans around the world and what it looks like to live in their shoes. One thing my dad did for us was he wanted us to experience culture.
Yes.
So he would make us learn their language, learn their traditions, their dances, I remember living among the Quechuas in Peru, and my dad made us learn songs
Wow.
and also eat their food, which there's a traditional food called the Ocoee. For us, it'll look like a rat, and but here in the South, some will go, no, that was possum. We
Okay.
do eat possum. So yeah, but it does look like a rat somehow.
Oh, wow.
And so we learn to be part of the community, and learn to love the community from inside out, not
Yes.
from the outside, as in we're coming here to help you out, but more as let's be in there and find out what it is that they need from us.
Yes.
And I remember as I grew up, the things that made my career decision was one of them. I am an international psychologist working as a therapist full time, and I have ViVe. This is a nonprofit organization that it's self-funded by my husband and me, and we do get some individuals to donate and here and there, and we also have some things that we do that we receive funding from that, but it's also a donation. It's not something that's too much. We want to help people. That's the whole purpose. But you also have to understand the culture, and sometimes there's cultures that they will not let you do anything for them for free. So in understanding that, we let them, it's pay, but in reality, it's a donation to the nonprofit in that case. So we've done a lot of different things, but coming out of that life of a young missionary kid that learned to live discrimination, the horrors of war, the deportations. In Colombia, we were extradited, that was the word, of the country. This was in the 70s when the country decided that they were not going to hire anyone that was not a national.
Okay.
So as U.S. citizens, we were extradited, even though we were missionaries, because that was part of it. No priest, no reverends, nobody could be from another country. So we were extradited. So I remember the struggles of my parents to have to build a leadership group that could stay. And I remember my parents having to go back and forth into the country, smuggling through Venezuela, smuggling through to Panama, just to create a little group of people that could take over what they had just started, just less than 6 months, and they had to do this for 2 years. So I had to live through that and having to be separated from my family temporarily until they could get this rolling. So there is so much that is just really close to my heart in the struggles of the migrants. Then living in Europe and my parents deciding to work with the gypsies, who are severely discriminated.
Yes.
Racism against the gypsies is just so ingrained in the European culture that even Madonna, I remember her several years back wanting to speak up for the gypsies, and she was booed in Italy. They were throwing things at her. So that's still happening. It's not something old. So I've lived so many experiences that's my testimony. To come into this community 13 years ago, Tony, and seeing that nobody was representing they were not a constituent to this community. They were not even thought of. It was not in the mind of the legislators or the senators or the district council, the councilmen. They were not thinking about them. And coming to somebody and going, hey, I am available. I speak 5 languages. Do you need me to help out in the community? To go, we don't have that problem here.
Yes.
I was like, okay.
Yes.
We are dealing with a community that is not really even realizing how big the multicultural community is in here. We have a Haitian community. We have a Brazilian community.
Come on.
We have a Spanish community. I'm talking about European Spanish. We have a Latin American community.
Yes.
And that is Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, Salvador, Panama, Belize. Belize is the
Yes.
only Central American country that speaks English. That's their language.
Yes.
And then we have the South American groups from Argentina, from Ecuador, from Peru. I was just talking to somebody yesterday. I was like, if you guys see people looking Japanese, they may actually be from Peru because
Yes.
they were conquered for 400 years.
By the
Japan
Spanish.
conquered Peru for 400 years.
Yeah.
So their food is Japanese. They speak Japanese, but they're actually Peruvian. They're Hispanic.
Right.
So we have such a wealth of multicultural groups, and we have Arabic in this community. We have Arabic Baptist, Arabic Coptics. We have a Muslim community. We have an Indian
Ukrainian.
community. We have a Ukrainian. We have Russian.
Russian.
A big Russian group.
Yes, we do.
Beautiful. And lately, a very big German group that is not being served as well, and they don't speak the language. Some of the workers do speak a little English, but not all of them. I've had to use translators.
Now, the German is actually because of Wacker.
Wacker and Volkswagen.
And Volkswagen, yes.
So
as we're bringing industry in here, in particular industries from other countries, then they are bringing their own people in the beginning to help train and develop American workers. And the point I'm making is, hello, we invited these companies in, so now we have to respond to the people that come with them.
Yes, exactly.
Okay?
Yeah, and to just think that there was no representation for this multicultural community was kind of sad and heartbreaking. I'm not going to talk about what I'm saying later on. I'm just going to let you give a gist of another thing is that our community doesn't have a representation for disabled either.
Yeah.
So ViVe has become the place to go for minority disparities. I have had to do Social Security appeals for elderly that are illiterate, for those that are deaf, for the ones that do not feel comfortable going anywhere else because they get judgments sent their way, like the LGBTQ community, that if they're transgender, they come to an office and the first thing that they feel is that face being judgmental against them and why and this. So we are the place to go for all of them. And in serving, I am just so honored. To tell you the truth, Tony, I'm just honored that it was me that God placed in this community to help and to provide services of all kinds. Because what I don't know, I'll find it out.
Yeah. Yep,
I
that's
mean,
our shot.
that is the beautiful thing about having Google and Siri and all of that. And I call USCIS, which is the agency that does all the immigration paperwork, and they're so helpful to let me know where to go, how to go. We have Tennessee Immigrant Rights Coalition in Nashville, very helpful as well. When I call them, they have come and done different things. We have done different things together with Catholic Charities where I just tag along and volunteer. Yes. I'm a notary as well, so I help with those with
legal
that part, the
documents
legal
and
documentations
like
to
that.
be notarized. When they come to Chattanooga, then I just tag along and I help the lawyers in those process. But I'm just happy to be able to do all of this. Sometimes I get tired. That's reality. But then I get that energy from, I know that it comes from the Lord, that the Holy Spirit just energizes it all over again to be able to do one more, in one at a time.
Well, here's what I want to say so people really get this, is that ViVe helps immigrants, refugees, minorities with disparities, and that could be
anything.
And anyone else that stumbles across ViVe and it says will help, and they make that call, even if you don't provide that services, you will connect them to the organization that you know, and you know very well in this community, because I know I first met you at the Caring Place.
Yes.
And so you know and work with all these interagencies in this community. And when it comes to anything, especially for the immigrant and refugees, you are the only go-to organization who is primarily a staff of 1.5.
Yes.
Right? I'm summing it up, right?
You are right. You are right.
1.5. And so, you know, I really want to say to our community, and you are self-funded.
Yes.
So you and your husband, God bless your husband. And
I
you
know,
tell
poor
him
thing.
I'm saying this, that, you know, that he is in this too, and that he supports all that you're doing. And when I say this, not just at a girl, Shady, it's he opens up the family checkbook and he writes checks.
Yes.
Okay.
And my son.
And you're
I have a son
so
too.
it's a family
so
affair.
It's a family thing. Yeah, I have a son. He's only 24. He just turned 25. And I go to him, I was like, I have this family that doesn't have a place to go. They just lost their job. And he goes, how much, Mom?
Yeah, okay.
I just love him, his heart. And but I think that he knows the genuine heart that I have for the people, that and that there's a lot of need.
Well, I think one thing I know about God is everything is generational.
Yeah.
So
Thank you,
the
God,
gift that you have passed through your DNA to your son.
Yeah.
Okay. So he has the same heart.
Yes.
Okay. But the other thing I wanted to just really bring out, because I want people to get this, and I want to make the plea as well, is to go to your website and donate. They can donate through your website. You have some individual support, but you need a lot more support. Also, volunteers. You need volunteer help as well.
Actually, I had they're Russian, actually, and they approached me yesterday. They looked at the website, because I also, self-funded means I work a lot to be able to fund this. So I also teach at Cleveland State as an adjunct.
Yes.
And one of my students is a Russian immigrant, and she approached me and said, my daughter would like to volunteer for you. I was like, okay, yeah, I would like to have another little flag to add up there. I just would need somebody to look up, the translation and say, hey, yes, this works out. Let's go ahead and go live with it. So apparently she will come on next week and meet with me, and we will see if she's a good match. And what I'm looking for, a good match, is a heart of love and a heart of service.
Yes.
And that they don't feel like they're just working too much, because you're working with your own people. I would love to work with our Native Americans as well here in our community that feel that they're not represented as well. I think that this is an opportunity for growth, and so when I told my husband, "Hey, honey, I think it's time for us to have a part-time person in the office," he looked at me. He goes, "How much is that going to be?"
Well, you need some help.
But, thank God she's been there with us for 4 weeks already.
Okay.
She's doing 2 days a week. And, really helpful. She's learned the ropes. And she is a Cuban immigrant, also a citizen.
I was going to say, let's educate people while we're here.
These are citizens that are in our community.
Yes.
But they're still immigrants because they immigrated to the United States.
Well, we
all came, right? So But she speaks English and Spanish, which I was looking
that is
for that.
awesome.
And the same with this Russian student
Yes.
that also speaks Russian.
This is so good.
And English. The good thing about the Russian is that they can actually understand several different dialects
Yes.
of that Asian community. So she said she could communicate with the Ukraine. And I was like, praise God. I'm so excited about
Well,
this.
see, I know because at the caring place where I used to work, we served the population, Russian and Ukraine. And oh my God, but God is so good because everybody responds to love.
Yes.
And so we were able to wrap them around in love and walk them through everything, the paperwork, through the process there without speaking it. But it is so much easier when you have a person that can actually communicate in the language. Yes. And so I know that's still a very great need in this community as well, because that Russian and Ukraine population is quite large.
Yes. We do have a big Vietnamese community that have not been able to tap onto. And my concerns, Tony, with this thing is that, and how I came to this was crisis situation, domestic violence, rape, sexual abuse. The immigrant population is so scared of coming out of that. They're scared of the police. They're scared, and let's just think about the Cuban. I've had so many families come here, and they have become residents in less than 5, and then in 5 years they become citizens, and they still. As citizens, they're still scared. They feel that the police is going to take them because that's where they were coming from. You know, You're scared of the police. You're scared of leadership. You're scared of anybody.
Right.
You're not supposed to speak up. You speak up, you're going to be put in jail. So it's not that they're paranoid. It's just that that's how they live. And
that was the culture that
that
came
was their
from.
culture.
So anytime anyone comes here, they bring everything with them, including their fears.
Yes, and they don't want to speak up about even that kind of situation. I've had people that their neighbors broke their tail lights so that they for intimidation purposes, to take away money from them. And they just go, no, just let it go. Just let it go. I just need to know where to go to get my tail light fixed. I was like, you don't have to take this. You also have rights. We can call the police. I was like, no, the police, don't call the police. I said, so there's a lot of fears.
Yeah, so what I hear is that there's a great need in this community for our leadership and our organization structures such as the police department, fire department, to reach out to these communities or reach out in such a way and invite them in, or reach out in such a way or work through you to introduce to them that we're here for you.
Yes.
Okay? And build a bridge between those communities and the government structures that really are here to help them, not for them to be afraid of.
Yes.
So that's very important. That's something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I hope some of these organizations are listening because, a great community is a community that demonstrates unity. And so, and in a community, we have, because it is multicultural, we have to have many bridges that comes back to a center. And that center represents the spirit of that city, since we're the city of spirit.
Mm-hmm. What is the spirit?
So what is the spirit? Yes. And so hopefully the center of all of this is the love, that unconditional love for all the people in our community, regardless of how they got here.
What status they are.
What status they are.
Yes.
Okay. But that brings me to when you were talking about, I know because I've been with you, and we just went down to the
The office,
to the state, the
Tennessee
Okay,
Department of Health,
Health.
Office of Minority Disparities
Woo,
in
Lord.
Health and Elimination.
There it is. Y'all see how long that was? So, and all I got to say is, you come over here and do this. So we would just spend some time down. That's where you get some funding from them.
Yes, actually, it ends June 30th, so I
Okay.
only have like a couple of more days.
Couple more days that you
Yeah,
get of funding,
Of
right?
funding, yes.
So,
But it was very helpful, and I really thank the Department of Health
Yes.
for entitling this money to us. That's how we were able to get this multicultural website. We did a clinic with Tony.
Yes,
with
the Life Clinic.
Yes, we did one past October. We've done several events, informative events that we did in conjunction with the health department, with our
Right.
local Bradley County
Right, they
health
were-
department, and different little things that were done throughout the year was done through this grant, and we were able to really kind of grow.
Yes.
You know, we were just this
More awareness.
yes, there was more awareness. The website is helpful for individuals that are very afraid
Yeah.
to seek out help.
Yeah.
They can just shoot us an email, and we can shoot them an email back, letting them know where to go, how to do it, and so forth. And they can donate through the website. So they helped us with the phone lines, the preparation of the website, and also to several events.
And how many languages on the website?
It's 3. It's English, Spanish, and French
Yes.
right now. And I thank Lee University, Sarah Ortega,
Yes.
the French professor, who actually helped me. And she's going to be mad at me if I didn't do it right because I've been still working on it. But the French side, she's actually the one helping me.
Okay.
And we have another professor at Lee, Alexander Stefanel, that helps me with the Spanish on there. Not that I don't speak Spanish or French. The situation here is making sure that it's correct and that it's an international language that everybody can understand. And what I mean by that is that in our community, we do have the French speaking,
Yes.
but we also have the Haitian speaking.
Right.
So when you have those two languages, you need to make sure that the French covers part, it's an international
incorporates.
and incorporates some of that the Creole community could also understand.
right.
The same thing with the Spanish, because we have such a
Different
big,
dialects.
so many, and we have languages,
Yeah.
tribal languages. That
Yes.
their Spanish is so limited that we need to have something that's simple, understandable by all.
All.
So
yes. I love that. And quickly, I wanted to touch upon this because you and I were talking, and one of the things is we've had several people in light of what happened with the hurricane, that we have several citizens that have moved here from Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and actually, we had a meeting with that community this past weekend.
Okay.
And it was very good to hear their stories and how they're doing so much better, how they're doing well. So after the hurricane, we had a lot more from Puerto Rico than we had from the islands.
Mm-hmm.
We have had only like one family from St. Croix. That's all I know.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that little by little we'll hear about other people that also moved here. But because we had several veterans that were Puerto Rican nationals, and my family is from Puerto Rico, a lot of people were able to move over here because of the amount of jobs. And let me tell you something. Our employers are so happy that they now have bilingual individuals that are educated, that
Yes.
they know what they're doing, that they
Well,
didn't
they're
have to train
doctors, they're
hardly.
lawyers,
Yes,
come on, from Puerto
and
Rico.
we have at Whirlpool at
Yes.
Eaton, we had engineers that actually took jobs immediately. They would come here, and in a week they already had a job. Then after
Because they
that,
just wanted to work.
they wanted to work, and then they had their apartment in another week, and the car car in 3 weeks. All we had to do was transport them for the first 3 weeks. They were on the way down, road by themselves, very independent. So now we have a Puerto Rican community that's very strong.
What is it, about 1,000 strong?
About 1,000 strong right now, yes. And they're all over.
I'm making a political point. I'm not normally political, but I'm making a political point.
But these are citizens that vote.
Citizens that can vote because they have already registered to vote.
Yes.
So all you
besides all of the Mexicans that became citizens this year through the help of ViVe and Golden Door Advocates.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is these are voting members. We got some tight races going on.
Yes.
And even though it may be just the Republican Party and there's no opposition from someone else, even with, and what I mean by that is looking at the governor's race, if we just take the governor's race, because they don't have an opposition. Yeah. So August 2nd, when we vote between these 4 Republicans or 5 or 6 or how many's running, that will be your governor.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to all these candidates, especially here in Bradley County, there is a voting block that you may not have tapped into.
These are your constituents.
Okay.
And
they want to know and they want to hear from you.
When we become leaders in the community, we are voted by all.
Right.
Whether they voted for you or they didn't vote for you, they're still your constituents. And
right.
you have to also serve them. That is an important part.
Yeah.
So think about that. Think about how to make a board or an advisory board that brings in the children. That's part of my testimony.
Come on.
As an adult, I married a Methodist lay leader that introduced me to Methodism. And one of the things that they did is they had representation from the children, from the youth, from the women,
The youth and women are strong programs in the Methodist Church.
Yes, and they have a voice, So when you are in government, you have to have the voice of your constituents.
Right.
Whether they're in your party or not, you still have to have a voice from them so that you know what's happening, how you can serve them better, because it could turn around and you're not going to be there anymore if you don't serve them. Like the elderly and the disabled, they need to be heard.
Yes.
They need to know what's going to happen for them. I mean, whether it is somebody that can speak up for themselves or not, they still need to have somebody that cares for them in the government.
That are even an advocate for that community.
That's right.
Who has the heart and really understands the challenges and the issues that they are going through so that they can give voice to those issues. And I think everybody has to have that representation regardless.
Yes.
So, anyway, I'm going to switch from political because we're coming down to the timepiece and there's still a couple more questions. I know July 1st.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
So let's explain what this means. In particular, this July 1st bill will impact undocumented immigrants in our community, in our state. So why don't you go ahead and take the next few minutes and explain that?
Yeah. I want to help people know that undocumented individuals are not rapists, and they are not drug addicts and drug dealers. Our community, the workforce community, knows what type of people they are because they trust them. They trust that they do a good job in this community. And if you guys are not acquainted with the workforce in Bradley County, it's a very strong workforce. And this community has not been able to fully staff in all of the different manufacturing companies. And what do they say? The first thing that they say is, we don't have enough people because there's too many individuals using drugs. But it's not the immigrants. It's actually the locals. And so they have to hire. And there is not a pathway for them to get an employment. So they have to do it with other means. You want to know about what other means? Go ahead and have a meeting with me. It's okay. We can meet, we can sit down, and I'll let you know what's happening and how the IRS deals with all of this. Okay, and it's not new. It's been coming down since Reagan. Okay,
President Reagan.
Exactly. Actually, I was part. That was the first time I voted. I remember voting for President Reagan.
Yes.
I liked the way that he thought about people. I liked the way that he understood workforce. I liked the way that he understood borders. And the agreements done. I know it was not all under Reagan, but he understood the borders. He understood how Canada had to be part of an agreement.
That's where all the NAFTA relationships.
Right. We had the Canada and Mexico agreements.
Yes.
And there's an IRS agreement under that NAFTA as well for them to work without having documents.
Right.
Now that it's turning around in this July 1st, and they're doing a lot more raids, and as if somebody in the audience is a racist and wants to go ahead and say, okay, I don't like my neighbor, you call immigration, and they're gonna be there with you, and they're gonna let you do this, and that is the sad part of it. Because
so
now our
they're
vulnerable.
gonna let you do what? So what? Explain that.
Call ICE.
Okay.
And
so
do a report
citizen can call ICE, do a report
of possible undocumented individual.
Okay.
And ICE will take that. Well, actually not ICE, because now, as of July 1st, our police officers and our sheriffs will become ICE.
Okay.
They will do the job
for ICE.
For ICE, right. And their jails, their prisons will become part of ICE.
Overflow.
Before, it used to be that you had to call ICE, and ICE would take care of it. And then you just if they said, "Oh, we're not interested. The guy has no record," then you let them go. Now it's not going to happen like that, because now
they'll be detained
under the law that passed, under the thing that's being seen, which says that President Trump is saying that families will stay together. There's another clause right there that says that anybody coming into the United States undocumented is a criminal, which had never happened. So now it is a criminal activity to be undocumented.
Okay.
So our prisons and our jail system will be full of undocumented individuals that are going to be called criminals. This is a two-edged sword. If we could. I mean, it's not just two. There's like several edges on this. It's like a multi-edged sword, because now we're talking about one of the things that you need to have to be able to have residency is a clean record. So if this individual had a possibility under asylum, under a humanitarian visa, and they were taken by a local person into jail, now they have a criminal charge.
Okay.
How are they gonna be able to get their residency? Now, from being just steps from residency, they're gonna be undocumented again.
Okay.
So that all of that is happening. The other part of this is that our vulnerable communities, undocumented communities that have been vulnerable until now, are even more vulnerable because people don't feel like there's repercussions. There is nothing that they can sue you for, because you're doing it under the new law, which lets you do a possible. There is a word for it, a term. Where you think that there is a possibility this person is undocumented, so you just arrested them, a civil
Right.
arrest.
I can arrest them
Yes,
if I think that
Yes, if you think
without
that
any proof.
without any proof, and there's no repercussions against you.
None whatsoever.
None whatsoever. So our families are even more in vulnerability right
And
now.
the fear is now greater than ever.
Is greater. So we are having all of this happening, and we're going to be leaving children alone. Because you can put a mom in jail. Do you know if that mom is a single mom or not? You know, or a father in jail. Do you know if that father is a single father? And these children are going to come home to no parent in the home. And I saw, Tony, when President Trump took office, that this family was just so scared of what was happening that they told their children, you know, if something happens to us, you're just going to go to this family. But they were too little to understand that. Well, both parents got deported. I mean, like immediately.
And you've worked with this.
And I worked with these children. I worked with the community. I worked with the church to be able to find them homes. But it was really, really sad that these children were there by themselves in that home. Because the oldest daughter, even though she was 19, she had intellectual disabilities. So all of them were children. And they were very vulnerable. It was really sad. To this point, I just remember looking back almost 2 years ago and all the things that we had to do, how we had to raise funds to help these kids that had been left behind by themselves. We didn't have to put them in foster care, thank God. But it could have been. It could have been the police came and took all those children and be put in foster care. And that's tax dollars money.
Yeah. And so as we move forward, I think what I'm hearing is that as a community, we really need to sit down around the table and really think through how we're going to respond to all of this.
How are we going to respond, Tony?
I don't know. I wish I had all the answers. I don't have them. Yeah. But the one thing I can do is raise awareness. And I think, a lot of times, especially in this world today, we're not thinking things all the way through. And there's such a divide in this country right now. And what we're talking about are families, regardless of the status, regardless of
how are we going to,
the documented or undocumented.
We're
talking, how do we protect families? How do we protect children?
Yes.
Okay?
Protect them from pedophiles. Protect them from human trafficking.
Go ahead. All these things, because when we do this, when we take the parent away, now they are subject to all those things. Mm-hmm. And so, and I know a lot of churches, they're into this, really providing a way out of human trafficking. And I know the church is not checking whether these girls or boys are documented or undocumented. They're just serving. They know they got to save these children. So that's what I'm saying. We've got to figure out, how do we respond? I'm not sure where all this is going. I'm not sure where all the immigration thing is going. You all were talking last week. It's time that we really all parties come together and figure this out. And figure it out not only from a law perspective, but from the heart of God.
Yeah.
And that's the point I really want to make today, is that our country has always been the humanitarian leader. And I don't want us to dilute the humanitarian piece because of fear, because of unknown, because of stuff that is untrue, stereotyping a whole community. It was just this week. A young man was a citizen of the United States. This lady approached him and called him a rapist and said he was from Mexico and all this, and he was a citizen. Yes, his culture was Latino, but that was it. He was born and raised in the United States, owned a business. Hello, somebody.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. And so now you've painted these pictures that when somebody doesn't look like you're making an assumption that they're evil. Well, God didn't create anything evil because we're all his creation. And so I guess I just had to get that out.
And
But go ahead.
There is bad people in every culture.
In every culture. We all
There is
have
bad
them.
people. But why would we want to put everybody in the same box?
Yes.
You know, you met this person that was a bad person. You know what? Handle that, but don't put everybody in the same box. One of the things that I teach my students is if the Muslims were all the bombing, we would be dead long time ago. There's millions of them in the United States.
Yes.
I mean, we have to be sincere with all of this, If they were all rapists, you know how many Mexicans there are in the United States? There wouldn't be enough jails to hold all of them. So you have to stop. I feel that people need to stop thinking, generalizing, in generalizing terms, and that everybody. It's not like that.
Well, and we
That's
should,
childish.
as a nation, we
Childish.
should learn about that. We've even had that as, coming from the Black race, I know firsthand about how people have stereotyped my whole race.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, true.
And so, let's learn from our history and not do that anymore. Recognize that we are all contributors to this country and the success of this country. It has been built on the backs of immigrants who came here because they thought it was the land of milk and honey, and immigrants like my people who were bought here.
Hello. Yeah.
Against their will.
What is that new T-shirt that Native Americans are using? The one was like, who is illegal in the country that was stolen from others? They have all the nations on that T-shirt.
And we all the only people that should be here that really have a right are the Native Americans.
That's right.
And look what we did with that.
Yeah, we stripped them of their language. We stripped them of their land. We stripped them of their culture. Aren't you sad if you have a little bit of Cherokee in you of having the Trail of Tears? And that's happening right now with separations of families. Thank God that was reversed, and they're supposed to have them back.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
The same history coming right back again. They were stripped of their children to be resocialized. They're doing the same thing, stripping them of their children for those children to be resocialized. They have to learn the English. They have to think that their culture is ugly and less than the American culture. What is the American culture?
And then but wait a minute.
What is the American culture?
I can't sit here and we systematically did that to slaves. We tore that family apart. We removed that man from that family. Okay? I could go through I could tell you so much when
there is
the
a lot
effects
of
and the impact of what was done to the Black family that is still perpetuated today.
Yes.
Okay? We're still living it out. And so when are we going to learn? And I didn't know how this was going to go or how we were going to flow in this. But I just think it's time, and I hope people will listen to this broadcast and just really get out of this box of thinking and get out of the political sound bites and really sit back and say, oh my God, if this was me, because it could be you, because what's next?
Yes.
What's next? Because you don't believe a certain way?
Or because you think that it doesn't exist?
Right. So how would I feel? And maybe if we operate from that and operate that we want everyone, every family to be together, we want so that then everything we design will be to keep families together as best we can. I know there are some situations where that may or may not can be, but for the most part, how can we build the bridge? And, I had a great opportunity to be on this small group of racial unity. And it was bigger than just color of skin, race. It's about cultural differences coming together and being a bridge. And a bridge to reconciliation, because that's what we're talking about today, reconciliation.
Yes. One of the things that when I have somebody speaking to me about immigration in a negative way, I was like, well, we are all immigrants. I try to bring them back to that and go, so where are you from? Where's your family? Well, we are Irish. And I'm going to say something that may hit home right now. And I said, oh, so your family speaks Gaelic? And they go, what? You know what? Your family was also torn apart. Right. They were also, back then, when the Irish came into this country, they were slaves in this country. Mm-hmm. And they were torn apart and stripped of their language, and they were stripped of their culture. To this day, the Irish community we have here, they don't know anything about being Irish. That is what racism done.
Other than when we celebrate being Irish and it's all about drinking.
Yeah. Is that the only thing? Do you know what that means? When people go to Ireland and they see the struggles and the war, the North and the South, and they hear the people speak, they come back as like, I could hardly understand anything they spoke. I said, because you guys were stripped of your culture here. Yeah. What is that bothers you about Hispanics? What is that bothers you about Indians? I'm talking about Indians from India. Yes. What bothers you about the Muslim? What bothers you about the Arabic culture? What bothers you about Vietnamese and Chinese? That we want to continue to keep our traditions, that we want to continue to keep our language, that we want our children to be proud of where they came from, so that one day they can tell their children, hey, we come from a beautiful land, and there's nothing wrong, but we are all American. We are all American,
we're all Americans.
But we all speak different language. This was the land that embraced us and that said, hey, it's okay to come and work here because we have so much land we need to be working on. We have enough land that needs to be worked in agriculture with corn, with strawberries, with apples, and nobody is doing that.
Nobody.
There is so much work, and there's not enough people to work it. Why are you so afraid? What is the afraid part that you have inside of you? Start battling with it inside of you. Start questioning yourself, because maybe your bias is coming from a very not realistic point of view. So look at yourself. And if you are, and Tony, I'm going to have to go this way. If you're a Caucasian and your heart is just like mine, and you feel the same way as I feel, hey, come alongside with me, and let's work. We need more Caucasian people stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, I believe like you. I want to work together to make America again, great again, to make it beautiful again. That multicultural beauty that we've always had, that America the Great, that gave this American dream for everybody to come. That is America. That is the great America that we all have. And I'm fifth generation American, so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, just because I speak Spanish and I choose to speak Spanish as my first language, it doesn't make me any less American than anybody in this town.
That's right. That's right. Well, Shada, I just want to say this. We're coming to an end. We have been, well, this has just touched my heart. Didn't know exactly how this interview was going to go. You saw I didn't have any notes. Holy Spirit wouldn't let me write down any notes, so I just had to depend on you, the Holy Spirit moving through you and it moving through me, and for us to share what God wanted shared today at this table. And I believe that I love your heart. I love ViVe and what it does in this community, but I'm gonna speak. I'm also ashamed to our funding community because she has not received any funds, and she does a great work. And if you get mad at me, that's okay. I got broad shoulders, but I believe in calling things out as I see it. And I think locally, for individuals who believe, that have a heart for people regardless, this is a great organization that your charitable dollars can go to our funding community, foundations, corporations. This is a great investment for your charitable dollars to go into. And I'm hoping that this time next week that Shadi's going to call me up and say, I got contacted by some foundations and some individuals who want to come alongside of me for this most important work. Let me tell you, she's all about all the people. All the people. All those that don't have a voice, she gives voice to. Don't get so focused on immigration. It is all people in this community that she helps. Minorities with disparities. I can go on and on and on without, and she's the only agency, nonprofit agency in this community that's doing this type of work.
Thank you.
You helping families. You are also minimizing the impact on our legal structures, okay, because of the work you do. You are saving this community, the county, and the city money because of the work you do. So the least we can do is get behind her, fund her, give of our time, give of her wish list of things she needs, whether it's paper, printer, a larger office space. I know that's going on. So whatever she needs, I'm just saying, reach out to ViVe today, reach out to Shady. I want to say thank you for all that you do here. I want to say thank you to your husband for supporting you and your son. I want to thank the state of Tennessee. And I will say that to our group because I love them and I love the fact that they recognize what you are doing here is important, that they came alongside of you as a partner, but that funding ends
June 30th.
June 30th. Come on. And you don't know if you're going to get funded again.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And so you're going to need funding after June 30th. Matter of fact, let's just start now. She needs for money to come in today. She does. So I implore you to get behind her and do this. I'd like to say on behalf of Dwelling Place Church International with our Life Clinic, we're coming back again as a partner with you, and we want to serve everybody that you are serving.
Yes.
Okay? Everybody that you serve, and we're going to welcome them to a medical clinic and do free services that's coming up in September.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? And we're excited. We need doctors, we need nurses to volunteer their time, but we're going to do this thing.
Dentists.
And dentists. Yes, 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 yes. Dentists who, any of your dentists that have gone out to Honduras or any place like that, that's who we need, because it's a mission field. We're going to do it on the grounds of Dwelling Place Church International.
Yes.
So it's going to be a true mission field initiative that day. So we need dentists that can do that.
Yes.
Right? So September, I said I wasn't going to give the date because we didn't have everybody, but I feel like I need to say that. September 29th. It's a Saturday, and we're going to do this thing. Amen?
Thank you, Tony, for everything that you do for us as well, just to keep it in your prayers and for doing this, inviting us. Thank you very much.
Well, Shadi, you're my sister from another mother, and I love your heart, and we're going to do this thing together. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. So we get ready to close out. We've ran over our time, but you know what? It has been a great time, and I just felt it was necessary for us to just hear another side to hear about ViVe, because that's a hidden gem that a lot of you didn't know about. And then secondly, to really get a perspective on and the impact of some of these things that are, I would say, this immigration fiasco. I don't have any other better word to describe it in terms of where we just throwing stuff against the wall. It's what it feels like and looks like to me. And but to really understand what is happening, what is going to happen, and that it will create a crisis in our own community, and we're going to need to respond to that. So I hope you really have learned a lot. I know I have. Continue to contact Shady at ViVe. Go to the website, get the contact information if you'd like to learn more. Invite her into your organizations for her to speak more in depth on these issues. Mm-hmm. So again, for this stormy Thursday, rainy Thursday, thank you for joining me, and God bless.